YouTube is up.
Instagram, we are live and coming up with Facebook, we're live.
Yes, indeedy. There we
Welcome
go.
back. This is the Holistic Freedom Secrets Podcast, and I am Coach Tensi, joined with.
I'm Coach Soul. What's going on, everybody out there?
We are co founders of Ufulu Child.
Ufulu means freedom, and we are freedom seekers, if you will.
Yes, indeed.
Today, we are talking about
Fueling.
nutrition and such because today is Fuel Day.
Yes.
As you know, and if you are new here, just give a brief explanation. Our podcast follows a 5-pronged healing system that correspond with the days of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And our 5-pronged healing system consists of the 5 concepts: be, cleanse, fuel, move, and shine. So today we're talking about fuel, and fuel is the concept of what you put into your body as well as what you put into your mind and spirit. So we're talking about fueling your cycle, optimal nutrition for each phase, because women's cycles have 28 to 32 or so day phases.
Well, 26 to 32.
It's a 26 to 32 day cycle with 4 phases therein.
Yeah, per month. Or per cycle, we'll say, because your cycle could start on this day of this month and then end on this day of next month, or that day of next month.
A different day of next month, right?
Exactly. So, but typically, the things that we're going to be diving into also apply no matter if you are in perimenopause or menopause. Just keep in mind that when it comes to hormones, your levels will be less than the cycling woman at 20 who's like what that homeostasis is going to look like for you.
Yeah. And so in a couple previous episodes for fuel, we talked about syncing up your cycle with various nutrition hacks, things to eat. What's going on, by the way? Beanieology.
Good day.
That might be the brother that I met at Angelo's party.
Oh, I see.
Where we talked specifically about how, what foods are good for certain phases of the cycle. So what foods are good for power phases, what food is good for the manifestation phase, and what food is good for the nutrition phase.
So, the nurture phase.
Nurture phase, excuse me. Nutrition, goodness.
Right.
All of the phases are nutrition phases.
Yeah. We also, we've talked about eating out, some tips for when you're ordering meals on the go. That was a recent episode that we did on a Wednesday. We've talked about, what else did we talk about? We've explored a lot.
Yeah. We talked about what foods are super inflammatory, like inflammatory oils.
Yes.
Hybridized wheats, processed foods, things like that.
Some things to look out for when you're grocery shopping as well. How to focus on those healthy foods.
So we're gonna
when to compromise.
And when to compromise, exactly. So we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into the syncing up foods that you eat with the various cycles that your body goes through on a monthly basis. For you women's out there. Women's.
All of us women's. So today is fueling your cycle, optimal nutrition for each phase. And the funny thing is that if men apply this too, then they'll get that variety and variability that they also need for gut health and for overall health. So it's also something beneficial to men. But we're specifically going to start off with talking about the different phases for women.
Yeah, so you have 2 power phases, which correspond with days 1 through 10 as your first power phase, and then days 16 through 19, thereabout, for your second power phase. And the second one is about 3 or 4 days long, as you can see, and the first one is 10 days long. So,
yeah, and it's really how it's timed. If you are still receiving your monthly cycle, like you're still having your monthly bleed
period,
then one thing to look out for is when you are ovulating. And when you are ovulating is when you're kind of going to use that as a marker of when your your power phases are. So let's get into first what they typically talk about when they talk about phases of the cycle. They talk about the menstrual phase, they talk about the follicular phase, the ovulatory, and the luteal phase. These are big words, but really it's kind of like the menstrual phase is when you're actually having your bleed. So day one of your cycle is the first day that you're bleeding. Not so that's the first day that you would need feminine care products like pads or tampons. Okay, it's not when you're spotting. So now the follicular phase, well, first, and that's this first phase. For simplicity of discussing through all of the things, I'm going to break it down in a way that we're going to give them different names. And we're just really going to, these different names are indicators of when your hormones are like high versus when your hormones are low. Because to keep it as simple as possible, because people make things too complicated when health is supposed to be simple. When your hormones are high, that's when it is time to switch into um, more so eating things that are supporting um, progesterone. So these are like nature's carbs. These are things that have like tropical fruits, those crunchy foods, those crunchy veggies and things that have fiber, and they like Brussels sprouts or yada 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 yada. Leafy greens are great, and just making sure that we are doing away with this low carb living in the sense that we are used to. So before I go too far down the rabbit hole, because I can do that sometimes, the 4 phases. First one, we're going to nickname the power phase. That's when your hormones are climbing from day one, and they're starting to reach their first peak, but they haven't reached their first peak yet. So hormones are still relatively low at this first phase. That's why we call it the power phase,
But they're
because you
climbing.
can power up on all of your your other health tools. Like you can use fasting, you can fast for longer than you normally do, you can exercise harder, like higher intensity, you can handle stress better. It's like a time to where you your brain health is like you can really drill into that like optimally to combat brain fog. And you can incorporate more good fats and eliminate bad fats, which we talked about in episode 3. It was those bad fats, in order to really come into a prosperous timing for yourself. And this is a timing that you want to eat foods to support estrogen and eliminate things that will like beat down estrogen. Okay. The next phase, so that's like,
So let's go. Let's name
talk.
some of those foods that support estrogen for power phase 1.
Okay. So some foods that support estrogen are like your leafy greens.
Mhm.
So that's everything from the collard greens to dandelion greens, um, lettuces, all your lettuces except for iceberg lettuce, because that's low key like plastic. It's not plastic, but it's like plastic. So anyway, there's parsley, which also cleanses the blood, amaranth greens, kale, turmeric greens, beet greens, all of the greens, and watercress.
Turnip
Also,
greens. Yep.
yeah, so like any kind of greens you can find. With greens, you want to get them organic, or at least if you're getting
Get your greens organic.
Yeah.
Get your greens organic, because it's labeling is, there's a lot of things that go into labeling.
Yeah.
Some stores you can't even trust the label organic, but some stores you still can. Just research what's the right store, meaning what stores have said no to certain labeling practices. And trust me, a simple Google search, even a simple YouTube search, will get you that information, and it'll get you that information as in what's up to date. And get your greens, your leafy greens, at least organic, because it's very, very important that these things that don't have a skin that you remove, like bananas, stuff like that, are not sprayed up with harmful ingredients.
Yeah. So the same thing goes for berries. Berries are also great for boosting estrogen, and also like the nuts and seeds and the legumes. Now, when it comes to those,
what are legumes?
Legumes are like beans,
chickpeas, lentils.
Yes, and those are really like the main ones that are, lower carb, but also in this family you can lump in some other things like there's pinto beans, black eyed peas, and stuff like that. But if you want to get the bang of nutrients for your cup or your quarter cup of your serving, then your lentils and chickpeas are going to be the heavy hitters, hard hitters for you. Yeah, for protein as well. So these boost up estrogen along with some of the nuts and seeds like Brazil nuts, almonds, your pine nuts, walnuts, which are also good for brain health, pumpkin seeds, which also break down excess hormones. And they bring up your if a hormone is out of balance, it'll help bring it up. If it's too high, it'll help bring it down. And then also
we have some morning gas.
Morning digestion. Okay. But these are some things to keep in mind for estrogen. She also needs to support your gut health and liver health.
I think she's just yawning. She's fine.
Word. So things like your sea moss, things like your elderberry that are rich in zinc, anything that is rich in zinc, do a Google search and you'll tap into that.
Be still.
He's reading. We're almost there. Okay, and then fruits and veggies like your cabbage, onion, garlic, zucchini. Those are really like the main jams. I mean, there's some more that you can look into and you can get into, but those are some of like the heavy hitters that are going to support you, and sprouts as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So next we have your manifestation phase.
Yes. So the manifestation phase is when, your hormones then climbed and estrogen is at her peak and everything, all your hormones like testosterone is at its peak and progesterone reaches like a mini peak and then it reaches the bigger peak later. So hormones are high. So what does that mean? That means that fasting for long periods of time, no ma'am. No. You got to vary your fast in this time, no more than 15 hours. So 13 to 15 hours if you're doing a fast.
Yeah, and we cover fasting on cleanse days on Tuesdays. So every episode, take a look back at our Tuesday episodes for more information regarding fasting during the different phases of the cycle as well. Just wanted to highlight that. I'm not trying to tell you to stop.
Word. But this is the time that you need to switch over. So get your metabolism switching over to a sugar burner phase. With estrogen, she loves high fat, low carb. But when your hormones are high, we need to switch over to like hormone feasting. And with hormone feasting, this is the time to incorporate foods like your sweet potatoes, your yams, your squashes, the butternut squash, the acorn squash, the
beets.
Beets are good. Turnips as well. Pumpkin, fennel, all of that ting. Even honey nut squash and spaghetti squash, all the squashes. Brussels sprouts, so those heavy crunch veggies. If you if you get down with some of the hybrid foods as well, then you can, broccoli, cauliflower. Now, with all these foods that you're eating, what's on the outside, get it all organic, because pesticides will completely ruin all of your hormones, and they'll get your mental health in all of a disarray. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and they also contribute to a lot of diseases nowadays that sneak in. So, hey, sweetie. So that's manifestation phase. During this time, testosterone is at its peak. So we also need to make sure that we're boosting our protein, that we are, so that's things like lentils, chickpeas, hemp seeds, chia seeds. And we're eliminating toxins. Yeah.
Eliminate the toxins, baby. Eliminate the toxins.
Love. So this is the time that chronic stress gotta go. Strength. Okay. Greens are extra great at all periods of time, but especially now, we're eating things that are gonna boost our iron, right? So those dark leafy green veggies are phenomenal at this time. But balancing that with the more tropical fruits, since we're in the manifestation phase, to get those natural sugars.
Mango, coconut, pineapple.
Papaya, yes. The citrus fruits. So with the tropical fruits, you want to eat them. Don't juice them, eat them. And with your citrus fruits, similar thing. You got your limes, your grapefruits, oranges, lemons. At this time, you can get them sweet oranges if you want to. Just make sure they got seeds in them, all right? And then seeds and the nuts and seeds and beans as well again. This time, also sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, they're also great.
Yeah, and flax seeds.
Chickpeas, lentils, that we mentioned before.
And your manifestation phase is typically days 11 through about 15 or so. And then you have another power phase. So we already went over those foods, which is from day 16 to about day 19, day 20. And then from about day 20 through the first day of the period, or the first day of the cycle. So throughout the rest of it, you're in your nurture phase, where progesterone is up and everything else is down.
Yeah. So progesterone needs to shine. And in order to do that, we need to switch back. So it's kind of like we're in this fat burning, metabolic eating lifestyle type metabolic. And then we switch into sugar burning for manifestation phase around days 11 to 15, whenever you would be ovulating. And then right after ovulation ends, around days 16 to 19, power phase again. Last phase that we're coming into is around 20 to 30, depending on how long your cycle is. It keeps going until it starts again, okay, for you. And that's the nurture phase, where we're focusing on foods like those tropical fruits, again, that were mentioned, to boost up progesterone. Also, maca is also good at this time. And then, like, say if you are incorporating some other foods to also support your gut health during this time, one thing that I would keep in mind is, generally across the board, and no matter what your cycle is in, it's also good to support your gut and support your liver. So some foods that will help you do that are the fermented foods like kimchi, or sauerkraut, which is like fermented cabbage, but one tends to be more spicy than the other with different flavors and tings. Pickles. Now, when you're looking at pickles, no table salt in them, okay? No citric acid in them.
No table salt or citric acid in your vinegar.
Look at the ingredient
foods that
label.
are just sitting in vinegar, yeah.
Or get it from the farmer's market and look at the ingredient label. See if they use sea salt as opposed to just salt, which is your table salt, which has chemicals to mess with your heart. All right. So next up we have, and then you can use things like coconut yogurt or kefir for the fermented foods. Next is all of the colors, right? So you need to have those fibrous veggies that have the different colors of the rainbow. Okay,
So
they
that's
each give something
broccoli,
different.
shallots, um,
Brussels sprouts,
Brussels sprouts.
parsley for some of the greens. Things that are also rich in polyphenols are like cacao. So that super dark chocolate, more than 70% chocolate powder. Um, Artichoke hearts, those fresh olives. I think she saw a car, y'all. Out the window. I know you excited, sweetie, with the big old smile. Yes. So some other things to keep in mind is that you can go for a red onion instead of a yellow one. If you're noticing that your plate is mostly yellow, then add some color into it. You can go for a purple sweet potato as opposed to an orange one. But really just getting the different colors in is going to be super helpful.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So we've went over all 4 phases and some foods to incorporate in your diet for each phase. Again, power phase 1 and 2, manifestation phase, and nutrition phase. Excuse me, nurture phase. I don't know why nutrition is coming to mind, but probably just the spelling.
Because we're talking about nutrition, I think, too. And we talked about basically for the different hormones, which hormones are at their peak and what to eat in order to support them. When testosterone is out of balance, then we need to just make sure that we are limiting our toxins and that we are also supporting our liver health. So
Right.
those bitter foods where you taste them and they taste bitter to you, which include also ginger and yada yada, are helpful.
Absolutely. So go ahead and comment how your diet is either going to start to incorporate more of these things or things you're already doing so that we can share information in the community. Like, subscribe, comment anything else as well, and notify yourself for the next time we're going live so that you're telling the algorithm that you like the content, that you think others would like the content, and that you think the content is worthy to be shared on the interwebs. Very, very happy that you sat through episode 28 of the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast.
Yeah.
And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your morning.
Yeah.
We'll see you in the next one. Tomorrow is move day. Get ready to move.
We'll see you then. Peace.